I'm really excited because I've just received my Dahlia tubers that I'll be growing this year. I've got 2 great big packages to go through with you because a lot of you on Instagram are requesting that I share the varieties that I'm growing. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. Of course, these are going to be Dahlias that I am growing for my wedding flowers later this year, so they're going to be a very selective sort of colour palette that I've chosen for that purpose. I will still be growing some of my old varieties that I've still got in storage at the moment, but for the purposes of this video, these are going to be all the new ones that I'm going to be growing this year. A lot of people do ask me, where do I get my Dahlia tubers from? And my main supplier is Farmer Gracie. I've also bought in the past from Sarah Raven, but I've also got Dahlias this year from Peter Nyson as well as Farmer Gracie. So those are the 2 suppliers that I've got Dahlias from this year. So without further ado, let's take a look at which ones I've got. Now, I do have them in these big cardboard boxes and it's just about to try and rain. So I might have to move these into the shed and just talk because I don't want them to get wet. But here they are, all packaged up. Fantastic plastic-free packaging. Do love Farmer Gracie for that. But also, they send you some beautiful postcards and artwork as well on your order confirmation. Where is it? Summary. But look at that, isn't that beautiful? And that changes, I think, on a sort of regular basis with different artists. So yeah, do love Farmer Gracie. So yeah, Farmer Gracie tubers, they come like this, and this one is called Brown Sugar. And I'm not going to open them all up because I don't want to get them muddled, but so you know what they look like. There you go. It's a brown tuber. Good size, nice and healthy, no rotten bits. No signs of the eyes growing yet, which is good because that means they've been stored well and they're nice and dormant until we're ready to wake them up. Okay, I'm going to put these in the shed now because it's starting to rain. So we're just going to have to use my notes instead. So that first variety was called Brown Sugar, and it's one of my favourite shapes of dahlias. I, as you'll find out, particularly love the pom-pom shaped dahlias, which is a very tight ball. The petals sort of curve inwards, but they also reflex outwards to make this completely spherical ball. It's just so perfect, and the petals go all the way around to the back of the stem, and from any angle that you look at it, it's just absolute perfection. And I find they've got one of the longest vase lengths of most of the dahlias, and I just love growing the pom-pom varieties. So the first one being Brown Sugar. Grows to a height of about 90 to 120 centimetres. The flower's going to be about 10 centimetres wide, so pretty good size for a pom-pom. And it's going to be a copper orange colour that sort of darkens to a sort of red brown in the centre. Really sort of autumnal sort of colour. So that's the first one. Now the second one, you're going to be familiar with it if you're aware of Cafe au Lait. So that's one I already grow. It's a very creamy dinner plate dahlia with flowers that grow to about that big, 25 to 30 centimetres. The petals are all really twisted, but this one is called Cafe au Lait Supreme because it's a pure white dahlia. It's not cream, and it's just going to be perfect for the main event, the big ceremony, big white flowers. But one thing I'm going to point out now is that dahlias are not really ideal flowers for a bouquet, particularly the dinner plates, because they're this big, they're really heavy, and if you've ever grown them and put them in a bouquet or on a mantelpiece before, you'll know that because they're so heavy, their heads tend to tip forward, and I think for that reason they're quite difficult to put in a bouquet because they take up so much space and they're heavy, you know, they're difficult to arrange with other flowers, which is why the bigger flowers that you're going to see in this video are actually more for decoration, putting in a vase at the event, rather than me holding it in a tight bouquet. So just bear that in mind because they're massive. But isn't that gorgeous? Huge flower, petticoat, twisted petals that sort of curl outwards. Absolute stunner. Now my third one, we're going back to the pom-pom. This one's called Colonel Bronze, and it's one that I've seen other people grow and I really wanted to grow it because I love bull dahlias, but also it is that copper terracotta orange. It has hints of sort of apricot, and I believe they sort of change as they open and fade. Honestly, this is one of my favourites that I'm going to be growing this year. And I've just seen so many of you grow it. How big do the flowers get? I've put here 10 to 15 centimetres. Dusky orange terracotta peach. I think that's quite accurate, isn't it? And they'll grow to a height of about 100 to 120 centimetres in height. So in the middle, towards the further back of my dahlia border, these will be. Next up, we're going back to white dahlias, and this one is called My Love, which is very sweet and romantic. The perfect name for an autumn wedding. So it's another pure white one, but the centre of this one does have a yellowy green sort of tinge, and it grows to 90 to 120 centimetres. It's also going to have quite mid-sized flowers, 15 to 20 centimetres, but again it's still quite big for a bouquet, so just bear that in mind. This one is actually a semi-cactus variety rather than a pom-pom. It doesn't have flat petals that curve outwards. It has spiked petals that almost come to like a point or like a cone shape, hence the name cactus. They're quite spiky, and they just add that bit of extra texture and drama. We want a variety of different shapes and textures to really sort of catch the eye and make the whole thing look incredible, hopefully. And again, on the white theme, we've got White Aster, which is my next variety, also from Farmer Gracie. And this one grows to about 70 to 100 centimetres. It's another pom-pom, but unlike my orange pom-poms, this is my white pom-pom, and the flowers are much, much smaller, 5 to 7 centimetres, which means it might fit in a bouquet. And being that round shape, they're just going to add a little bit of movement and texture and roundness to the bouquet. Now this one is a pure white, which is actually quite hard to find amongst dahlias, because you will find, like the previous ones, they have a bit of a yellowy green sort of centre, but with this one it is a pure white with a slight cream to the centre. I'm really looking forward to this one. Next up, I've had a bit of a wild card. I haven't grown many cactus varieties before, or many of the single flowers, but this is kind of like a cross between the two, because it's a single flower but they go to a little point. It's called Verone's Obsidian, and it's a sort of single/star variety of dahlia, but this one's got a nice dark burgundy, rich maroon kind of red black colour, which is going to be really contrasting to the oranges that I've chosen. The flowers are going to be 7 to 10 centimetres, so not very big, but just enough to add a little bit of dark splodgy starness amongst the other colours, and just to break it up a little bit. This one's a much shorter variety, growing to 60 to 70 centimetres. And yeah, just a bit of a wild card. Let's see how that one grows. Do let me know if you've grown that one before. But also, with it being a single flower, because it's got a very open centre, it's actually a really good choice for pollinators. Whereas a lot of other dahlias, the pom-poms, the decorative dinner plates, they're not great for pollinators, but they are still great because they give the insects somewhere to hide. I often find that people will comment saying, oh, they're no good for the natives, they're no good for wildlife, but you'll find no end of bees and ladybirds and other bugs sheltering inside those petals when it's cold and wet and windy, because they're just like a little, you know, like a little bed, like wrapping a big blanket around you, making a cocoon, and they sort of shelter in them. Anyway, next up we've got a bit of a statement dahlia. This is one that's going to be on display in a vase, or it's definitely going to need quite a lot of support because it's a big old dinner plate dahlia. This one's called Great Hercules, and it's similar in style to the Cafe au lait, I suppose, or if you've ever grown Penhill watermelon, I'd sort of put it more on that line, I think, because the flowers are going to be big. I mean really big, and the petals, they sort of twist and curl and then sort of go outwards round to the back of the flower. It's got a sort of orangey bronzy colour with hints of peaches, and yeah, those swept back petals, it's going to look amazing. Just hope that I've got enough structure in place in whatever I'm doing to hold it upright. So this being a dinner plate is going to grow quite tall. It grows to about 1 metre to 1.2 centimetres. Next up, we're going back to the burgundy, rich, dark black colours, and that's La Recollecta. This one, it doesn't grow quite as tall. It will be about 70 to 80 centimetres. The flowers will be quite small. They're little pom-poms, similar to the natal variety that I've grown before, but I found that one doesn't, I don't know, in recent years my tubers don't seem to be as productive as they have been in the past, so I thought I'll try Recollecta and see how that performs. Yeah, small flowers, pom-pom style, dark maroon, black colour. This one again, it's just been nice to break up all those oranges that I've got and just bring some contrast and richness to all the flowers. Got 2 more to go, and this next one is another cactus variety, and it's called Ludwig Hellfurt. It's one I've not actually seen before, but it's a big old spiky orange cactus dahlia, and I just think it's going to add that drama, that interest. It'll grow to about 1 metre tall. These flowers are 20 centimetres, which will be about that width, and they're a sort of orangey apricot colour. So yeah, there'll be lots of different shapes, spikes and dramatic flowers, but there's one last one which is my last pom-pom, and it's called Petra's Wedding. It will flower at a height of about 70 centimetres, and the flowers will be about 8 centimetres. I've already got one pom-pom, but this is my second pom-pom that's white. And what I've noticed on my notes is that the first one, White Aster, has quite rounded petals, whereas this one, they seem to be a little bit more pointed. But they're both a pure white. One will be slightly bigger than the other. I think this one, Petra's Wedding, will be slightly bigger than the other one, White Aster, but we'll have to see. So yeah, those are all my new dahlia varieties that I'm growing this year for the wedding, for decorating the displays and the venues, but also some of the smaller ones might end up in my bouquet as well. And one thing that I've done to help, well, to help with this video actually, but also to help with my planning and my planting, is I've made a little spreadsheet with the varieties that I've chosen, and underneath it says the name, how many I've got, who it was from, in case I get any problems I can go back to the supplier, the height, the type, the flower size, and a brief little description just to show what they do. And I'm going to stick this in my growing folder for this year, and it's just going to be really helpful in my planning and my planting, so that I know what I'm growing without just having a list of names. You know, you need this sort of thing to properly plan. So I do, if you're growing a lot of different flowers, it might be advisable to do something of the same. And it's also nice just to see the sort of colour palette in one place. And of course there's lots more flowers that I'm growing, more seeds that I'm sowing for the fillers. My shrub border will be added for the greenery, and yeah, there's just lots of other things to go amongst the dahlias, but they are going to be a key part because it's an autumn wedding, and I can guarantee that they're going to be in full bloom at the time of the wedding. So yes, my mother-in-law to be, Bev, she's a fully trained florist, and she's going to be helping to make my bouquets. I'm going to do the growing, and she'll hopefully help do the arranging. And then when it comes to the venues, well, we're just going to be throwing loads of flowers in vases, and I'm not even sure what we're going to come up with yet. That's still, you know, on the pipeline, on the agenda. We've got to see what comes and what blooms first, because, you know, you never know. Some of these varieties might not come up. Some of them might not be quite what I thought, and it's actually quite tricky when you're buying flowers online. You're just looking at a picture on a website, and you know, those pictures can look different on different screens. They might not have captured it quite correctly, although Falmer Gracie are great for capturing the accuracy of that, and they just might not come true. Also, the weather can really affect the colour of your flowers. I know if we have a lot of rain, it kind of washes them out and makes them look really muted and not at all as bright as you think they're going to be. So, you know, there's a lot to sort of bear in mind and consider, and you know, I'm fully prepared for them not all to do amazing. But I've got backups and lots of other flowers that I'll be growing, so I'm not too worried. Just hope that the weather's on our side this year. I'll be planting all my dahlias into pots from about April time, and I'll be starting them in pots inside the polytunnel when they're nice and protected, and then I'll be planting them out when they're a good size from around June time. And I do have a video all about my planting and how I do that, which you can find linked below, but I might also cover it again this year because it's going to be exciting, isn't it? Well, I'm glad it stopped raining. I might actually get on with a little bit of gardening now. But thank you so much for watching. Do let me know if you've grown any of these varieties before. What do you think to my selection? I'll look forward to seeing you guys soon in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.